Hello humans, Master DinnerFlax here, and today I'll be going over a deck I haven't profiled in I think a year since this time, and for good reason. It wasn't a very good deck. It was called Dark Fusion, and pretty much I wanted to make a fusion deck that was fairly generic and had a fairly large amount of plays. And the issue was that it didn't have all the resources it needed. A lot of the options are just off, so wasn't much you can do with it. But then I guess I took another look at it a year from now and seeing all the new fusion support, and this deck has actually been putting in some pretty damn insane work. It's not perfect. It loses quite a bit of games that normally you should win. However, at the same time, there's also a lot of games where you flat out just beat any deck because of not any deck, but most decks, just because you have this awesomely large amount of toolbox and draw power. So I'm gonna go ahead and get into it. So let's start. We got 3 Destiny Hero Malicious. Because this is a Destiny, most of these cards are Destiny Heroes. You need 3 Malicious. A lot of card choices are going to make sense with him. He's actually insanely fantastic. I love this card. Not a lot of cards in the game do what he does. So 3 Malicious. 2 Drill Dark. You barely ever use his summon on field effect, but it can come up sometimes. His piercing effect is whatever, and he's actually just a fusion material. But when you have fusion substitute, his effect is very important, and that's why I felt he was better than any other option. Um, 2 Shadow Mist, blank fusion material to get a Destiny hero or just toss fodder or anything. You don't play Mass Change in here because I was kind of getting bored of it, and it was very clunky with the rest of the deck. It didn't have any synergy with anything else you were doing. So I just cut Mass Change and just used her as a fusion material. We got 2 Dreamer. This one's interesting. You probably 100% don't know what this card does, but while he's in the graveyard, if your opponent attacks a Destiny hero, you can special summon him from the graveyard. That attack effectively becomes null because you don't take battle damage from it and it can't be destroyed by battle. So it's a recurring fusion material in the battle phase. It gets you used with a malicious on field or a dangerous on field. Puts an extra body on board. It banishes itself. Destiny draw target. Rota target. Very solid. The only reason I play is because it's the only like recursion. I don't really use its battle effect, but it can come up, especially with a certain number of things you do. And then for the second to last hero, we got 1 Celestial. This card is probably the most powerful when resolving because if you have no cards in your hand, you can banish him and another Destiny hero from your graveyard, except during the turn Celestial was sent to draw 2 cards. Yeah, it's like Destiny heroes. All they do is draw cards and they're not a deck of their own. Then we got 1 Vion. He actually just searches polymerization, but you have a lot of cards in your deck that do that anyways. So he's a very solid one of, but I wouldn't play anymore just because you have so many ways to already get him, and you have so many ways to get polymerization anyways that running 2 is pretty pointless. 2 Farfa. I'm going to explain some combos with him, but he's very good with Dangerous. That's all you need to know right now. 2 Necroface. This is actually the engine of the deck. So you obviously banish 2 Malicious and have a 3rd Engrave from another fusion. And what you do with Necroface is effectively you reset your entire deck each turn because you just put all your stuff back. Instead of 3 polymerizations, I literally played just 1 polymerization, but 2 fusion substitute. Always treat it as polymerization, of course. And while yes, you have to use on your field, Fusing Destiny Hero Malicious, it's always going to be on a field fusion material, and these cards are already just getting on the field anyways. And if there is a situation where you have to fuse from hand, well, you have Poly in your deck too. And then everyone knows this by now. Banish it from your graveyard, return a fusion, draw one card. So Necroface recycles that. The Malicious is. Anything with this, if Farfa banishes an opponent's card, he can normal summon it and put it right back in that deck. Um, yeah, that's pretty much it. He's a very solid card, and I'm going to get into a few things with him too. And then finally, three Predaplant monsters. I was actually playing a lot more earlier. These cards are actually just fusion materials most of the time. I never made a rank 3 with them, ever. Well, I think once, but it was a Leviair and not even a rank 3 thing. Um, so yeah, the Predaplants, this guy can toss and grab this and grab any fusion card. This one I would say is normally a Garnet, but he's actually just a fusion material at the end of the day. So if you draw him, it's like, okay, whatever, I'll just fusion summon. So he's not entirely dead in your hand. And I wanted to play the level 2 that fusion summons, because it can fusion summon any dark fusion monster, which is all but one fusion monster in here. I wanted to play that, but I felt it was too clunky, and it was already a normal summon, and I just don't feel like I need any more normal summons. So yeah, these three. Then we got 3 Destiny Draw, because we play Destiny Heroes. 3 Fusion Repair Plant, another card of this engine, and I'll explain 2 combos with this. So if you poly Destiny Hero Malicious with Farfa, you special summon Dangerous. Farfa effect, target Dangerous, you can decide if you want to chain or not, and then banish it out of your extra monster zone. Continue making your plays, or if you have a lot of traps, you can also stun them. End phase, you get Dangerous back in the main monster zone, and Fusion Repair Plant recurs a fusion material, so you have Farfa in hand. So on your opponent's turn, you can use Dangerous's effect, discard Farfa, send a Destiny Hero, increases attack, and stop a play of theirs. So that's very solid. And on that same accord, when you use Necroface with like a Malicious, so let's say you have 2 banished Malicious and like a banished fusion sub and a fusion sub in hand. Normal summon, Necroface, recur all those back, banish a Malicious out of your graveyard, special summon, fusion sub, Dangerous, of course, and then end phase, you put the Necromancer back in the hand for your next normal summon. So yeah, that's awesome. 2 Allure, you got a lot of darks, but not a lot of them you actually want to banish, but sometimes you just need to dig for cards. 2 Fusion Sub, I already explained this. 1 Poly, I explained that one too. 1 Twin Twister, because I just don't want to clump, especially when I already have traps in here. 1 Ultra Poly, I want to play more of these, but this deck space is insanely tight. If I cut anything, it's going to be a Compulse, but I don't really want to cut Compulse, because then I feel like I don't have enough traps. But very powerful. Very, very powerful. It makes a link, like, instantly, and that's pretty cool. Foolish Burial, send your guys. Rhoda, Search, and Soul Charge. It's broken. You got 3 Solemn Strike, 1 Compulse, and then 2 Full Force. Full Force, very fantastic. I've actually been, every time I resolve a Full Force, 80% of the games they just instantly scoop, and then the other 20% of the games I win. So in all reality, 100% of games I win. Just in testing, I know a lot of people you can really play yourself out of it and kind of get in a good situation, but they just didn't have enough because of other things that were going on that I was doing. And it's just like very solid. If you're in a situation where you can just steal a game instantly by activating a Full Force, well, go ahead and do it. Side deck doesn't matter. I'll say just side things you need. And then if you're going to actually side anything serious, side in some crows. And when you're doing kaijus, do Raijin, because you're focused on those dim darn dark monsters. Extra deck, 3 Dangerous. You only need 2 because of all the fusion substitutes, but I like having the 3rd. It allows me to play like against a really trap heavy deck. 2000 on 26 is pretty powerful. It's not actually really powerful. It's just pretty good. It's pretty solid stat line as well as having the ability to increase all your stats. Solid. And then we got Dustopia. I'll explain him after Dystopia. Dystopia, I think you all know, when his stats are increased, you can target a card on the field and destroy it, which is only dangerous here. So you rarely ever use that effect unless you just have the nuts hand. And then uh, when he's summoned, this is what actually matters. He can target a level 4 lower Destiny hero monster in your graveyard and burn your opponent for that damage. So he's literally a cowboy. Yep. But honestly, he's actually just a fusion material for substitute when it comes out most of the time. He barely ever comes up in either of those situations, but it's very nice to have this option. And Dustopia is probably the fusion that that is much more the bossish monster in here. His effect is almost trash. It's like he can protect himself from battle, and when he's fusion summoned, you can fusion summon. And that's pointless because of Master Rule. So he's awful. However, he has a 3k booty, and he can protect your other monsters by battle, which actually comes up more than ever protecting him ever. Um, but yeah, and at the end of the day, fusion sub target. You play these two for fusion subs targets, and when you want to push for major damage, because literally these summoning conditions are like a joke. This is not difficult at all, so that's fine. And then we got Chimera Rafflesia. Very, very solid card. This is like the boss monster effect that your boss monster should have, not just a regular fusion in your deck. But oh well. Also, that standby phase search can be very powerful. I rarely ever do it because there's a lot of more opportune times with like substitute rather than the search. But you know, you do what you got to do. And then Starving Venom Fusion Dragon. The reason why I even decided to make this deck profile is because I had literally the most anime-like duel of all time where I ran over a Crystal Wing with an 8800 attack Starving Venom Fusion Dragon. And I thought that was so adorable, so I decided to deck profile this. Yay. He's actually got a pretty good effect. He gains attack equal to a special summon monster on the field until the end of the turn. Once per turn, you can target a level 5 or higher monster, copies its name, and replaces the effect. And he gains that effect too. And then when he's destroyed, you can regeki your opponent's special summon monsters. So that's cool. Then we got Beatrice because you got a whole bunch of level 6 monsters. You can detach a dangerous and send this, or you can detach a malicious and another thing. There's a whole bunch of things you can do with this card. It's really like the best first turn play. And you're also, because it's so important that it's the first turn play, I actually do play the Dante Pilgrim. A lot of people are like, oh, he's playing Destiny Hero like Link garbage. So he's like, okay, I'll just Dark Hole that Beatrice. Okay, special summon Dante, and they're like, are you fucking kidding me? Awesome. I made Levier once. And that's about as extensive as that XE lineup is. Decode Talker, I make a few times, usually with Ultra Polymerization, but sometimes with a few Beatrice combos. And Soul Charge, of course, and then Proxy Dragon I made once, didn't matter. So yeah, this isn't going to be it for the deck profile. I actually really like this deck. Like, a lot of people say, oh, this is a fun deck, but in all reality, it's kind of just a mediocre like deck that would be fun in a like rare scenario. But I actually really enjoy playing this deck. It's got a really cool play style, and it's got just like this unique monster lineup and how that plays. It's very different from anything I played in a very long time. I really like it. It's kind of plays like Gem Knights before Brilliant Fusion. However, it's much faster than then and much faster and much better than Gem Knights now. Like, this is actually better than Most fusion decks, probably all of them as of right now. So no shit all comments. But it's still not that great. But it's really fun, and it's a pretty solid deck. So thank you all for watching, and remember, Master DinnerFlax will take your soul.